I ain't no ghost.
We all make mistakes. That's why we have shepherds.
The first time Lena Baptiste heard the name Imani Voss in 15 years, it was folded into a prayer over waxed church floors and lemon oil. The deacon's voice shook as he leaned into the mic at St. Matthew Aim, asking God to comfort the bereaved and bring rest to the old and the lost. He listed names like a train schedule of grief. Then he said one more for the girl no one found, Imani, who'd be 34 now if the river had given her back. Lena froze halfway to the aisle. St. Matthew's stained glass. Jesus cast her in bruised colors saffron and wine, while the small-town choir hummed low. She had flown in from Chicago the day before. On a red-eye, her editor begged her not to take, because you don't skip your grandmother's funeral, even if you're a journalist with the kind of podcast that sniffs at power and gets its windows keyed for trouble. In Briar Ferry, lowcountry, South Carolina, 2-lane bridges, Spanish moss like gray hair, the past didn't end. It just recurred like a hymn's refrain. Imani Voss, gone since '99, a whisper you learn to avoid saying out loud. Lena was 17 that summer, the last year she still believed in clean answers. If the deacon was calling her name, the town had not forgotten. Or maybe the town wanted absolution for pretending it had. On instinct, Lena checked her phone, then silenced it. The church fans fluttered like moths in dark hands. Grandma Epiphany lay small and regal in her pale blue suit. Lena's mother squeezed her fingers once, hard. Lena thought of her microphone and that ugly little saying her old editor used to throw at the interns like a dare. If they didn't want it told, they shouldn't have done it. But there were other sayings in Briar Ferry. Like, if you didn't see it, maybe it didn't happen. Like, if a black girl goes missing and the wrong men are involved, the river understands silence. She didn't plan to open the old door. Then the door opened to her. Quick heads up before we jump in. If you're into real stories, strange disappearances, and the kind of truths people try to bury, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what comes next. All right, let's get into it. A black investigative podcaster returns to her southern hometown for her grandmother's funeral and is pulled into the cold case of Imani Voss, a black teen who vanished in 1999 after a summer church revival. The old sheriff's office called it a runaway, but a recently unearthed cassette tape and a missing box of evidence suggest a cover-up that reaches back through the church, the school, and the badge. As Lena unravels Briar Ferry's polite lies, she's forced to confront her own role in the town's past and the trauma she buried to leave it. The chapter follows her mid-conflict return, the small-town resistance to truth, and the first fracture in the official story, an opening that promises danger, suspicion, and the slow surfacing of a long-drowned truth. Chapter 1. The River Remembers. The heat hit like a held breath the second Lena stepped out of the church. August pressed itself against her skin, all cicadas and the lazy slap of a distant screen door. Folks in black drifted toward the fellowship hall to pick at deviled eggs and pound cake and plastic pitchers of sweet tea that would send your blood sugar to God. Lena stood on the cracked church steps and stared at the sunshot. Live oaks bending toward each other over Briar Street, trunks like tired backs willing to carry one more thing. Lena, her mother's voice had the warning baked into it. Don't you start in with your little recording gadgets, Joyce said, lowering her voice and setting her jaw the way. She did when customers at the salon asked for something unflattering, and she had to save them from themselves. Your grandma ain't cold yet. I came to bury her, Lena said softly. I know how to behave. The deacon shouldn't have said that, Joyce muttered, fanning herself with the obituary. He grandstands. People forget Imani had a mama too. She does, Lena said. Shirley still lives off Hagen Road? Out by the brickyard, Joyce said, eyes narrowing. Don't you go dragging up pain, baby. Some wounds never made a scab. Let 'em be. But something was already unmaking itself inside Lena. She felt it in the tiny hair-raising way you feel when a train miles away shifts tracks, the low hum climbing your bones. She told her mother she'd meet her at the hall. She told herself she was only walking to remember. Briar Ferry was a town that could fit in your pocket and cut you as you reached in. The post office shared a wall with a law office whose name had once been a surname on a plantation deed. The diner still made biscuits with lard and offered the teacher discount that somehow never extended to the black substitute teachers unless they asked twice. Same cast of stores, same soft shoe of civility. Same river curving through the edge of town like a snake too lazy to strike. She walked past the little bodega where she and her cousin Kimmy used to braid hair on milk crates and earn grape sodas for their trouble. Past the thrift store where every rack held something with church sequins. She felt eyes on her. A murmur of "That's Epiphany's granddaughter, the one with the radio show, thinks she know everything," and returned nods like coins. The first surprise found her on the sidewalk outside Miss Rue's Beauty Nook. The shop had been Grandma Epiphany's domain, then Joyce's. Now the window was half filled with a poster of a teenage girl smiling with her lips pressed together, the photo softened by time or bad lighting. "Album drive for Imani," read the caption. Someone had stapled a handwritten note under it where weather had got to it. It said, "Missing since July 18th, 1999. Please contact if you have any tapes from the revival." "Tapes?" she said aloud. Rue, herself impossibly regal at 78, wrap around her salt hair, skin the color of rain tea, leaned out to water the ferns. "I been looking for cassettes," she said, eyeing Lena over her glasses. "Come say hey to an old woman or you too famous." Lena smiled and went in. A smell of pressing cones and coconut oil wrapped her. The chairs were the same, the magazines newer, but still months behind. On the back wall, a corkboard carried a patchwork of Flyers Gospel Concert, girls' basketball fundraiser, free blood pressure checks at the library, and at the bottom, a row of Polaroids curling at the corners. "You look just like Epiphany when she was your age," Rue said, touching Lena's cheek. "Only thing different is the steel you keep behind your eyes. You got that from your daddy." "My eyes keep me employed," Lena said lightly. "What's this about tapes?" Rue set the watering can down. "Shirley Voss came in last week." She lowered her voice, though they were alone. "She says her boy found some old revival tapes in a plastic tub. The same week, the church says someone been through the archive closet. Things missing. So folks got stirred up, asking who kept what. What's missing? Hard to say if you don't know what's supposed to be there," Rue said. "Shirley believes there was a tape from the last night before that girl disappeared. The choir sang 'This Little Light' till the roof sweated. Preacher had everyone testify. Somebody taped it. We all knew people were recording that summer. The church acted like that was worldly. But folks liked to hear themselves when they drove to work." Lena looked at the poster again. Imani's eyes were searching the lens, like the camera had asked a question, and she was deciding whether to answer. Who put the poster up? Shirley's boy did, her son Reuben. But a deacon signed off, because people still worry about appearances. Briar Ferry worries about appearances like it's going to save our souls, Rue said, then sighed. "What you heard in there," she tilted her head toward St. Matthew's, "has a way of waking history." "History stays awake whether we do or not," Lena said. Rue gave her that look the elders gave when they spotted blasphemy that was also true. "You got your grandmother's mouth, too. Listen, Shirley's had a time. You know that. If you go bother her, you go with kindness." Lena nodded. "I always do." "That what your radio folk think of you?" "They think I'm stubborn and I don't scare right," Lena said. "And they're not wrong. Rue's hand found Lena's wrist. Her voice softened. "Baby, there's scared and there's wise." "I know," Lena said. "I just don't always prefer one over the other." After she left, she went to the fellowship hall and ate one plate and made 2 small talk loops and hugged 5. I-U-N-T-I-E-S dash, who dashy dash, you dash, I-U-N, dies and waited till Joyce sank into a laughing conversation with the choir mothers sipping punch like medicine. Then Lena slipped out the side door and walked to Hagen Road, past the brickyard and the field of rusted machines that looked like dinosaur bones. Shirley Voss's house sat heavy on its cinder-block feet, porch fan clicking like a tired metronome. The yard had more ground than grass. A little boy's red tricycle lay on its side under the eave, cobwebbed. Lena knocked and counted to 10. When the door opened, she went back in time. "Lena," Shirley said. Her face carried grief like a watermark, the kind that emerges only when held up to the light. She was smaller than Lena remembered, or maybe the house had grown. "I heard you was in town. I was going to see you at the service, but my knees ain't friends." Lena held up a lemon pound cake in foil. "I come in peace." Shirley smiled despite herself. "Then coming out the heat. If you bring cake, the devil lets you pass." Inside was a museum of living bronze sofa, crocheted throws, plastic on the good chairs, a TV tray with Bibles and a bottle of lotion. On the mantel, a line of photos in frames, school portraits, Imani's first-grade gap-toothed smile, and then fewer pictures the closer they got to 1999, like life itself had slowed. "I'm sorry about your grandmother," Shirley said, easing down into her chair. She could press a curl so it'd hold against a thunderstorm. "She could," Lena said. "They said Imani's name at the church." Shirley's eyes moved to the TV, the way people look at anything except what hurts. "Some folks saying God is stirring up old business. I say God been stirring. We ain't had our spoons ready." "Miss Shirley," Lena said gently, "I heard about tapes." Shirley let out a breath that seemed to have been waiting since Clinton's first term. "My boy Reuben was cleaning the shed and found a tote with cassettes. Old sermons, choir practices. He carried it in like treasure, and I almost fussed this house. We got more past than shelves, but then I see a label that say, 'Revival July 18th Testimony Night.'" She swallowed. That was the night before she didn't come home. Lena's skin prickled. "Did you listen?" "I tried," Shirley said, voice rough, but the tape snapped. Old thing came apart like dry bread. Reuben took it to Mr. Spence at the Radio Shack, say maybe he could fix. Then next thing we hear, the church closet been turned inside out. The tapes they had for that week gone. Mr. Spence say some white man came asking about cassettes too, the day before. Tall, with an old cop haircut. Spence said he had the look of a man who still thinks he deserves both hands on your shoulder. "Old cop haircut," Lena repeated. "You mean like Sheriff Harlan?" Shirley's face sealed itself. "I mean like a man who used to be something that made people move aside." Harlan Cutchins had run the sheriff's office in '99, and for 10 years after, long enough to grow his belly into a desk and his sour breath into policy. He retired to fish and consult and take cash to tell other men like him how to prevent lawsuits. The photo still hung in the courthouse lobby, a white smile against the idea of law. "I heard the deacon at the funeral," Lena said. "You're looking too?" Shirley's hand trembled as she touched a frame, a photo of Imani at 12 with braids and a paper crown from Vacation Bible School. "I never stopped looking," she said, and that was not a metaphor. "They told me runaway. They told me she probably went up to Columbia with that boy she was sweet on. But I know how my child moved through a room. I know when a song ain't finished." Lena felt the room tilt with the gravity of grief. "What do you want me to do?" Shirley looked at her, and there was something like apology in it. "I want what you do best," she said simply. I want you to make people listen. I can record, Lena said. But this town don't like being recorded unless it's their own voice, Shirley finished. I know. You think I don't know? I raised a black girl here. Lena nodded. I can try to get the tape from Mr. Spence. See what we can salvage. I'll need names, places. Who was on the deacon's board in '99? Who had a key to the archive closet? Anyone who left town sudden. I'll need to talk to Harlan. Shirley's mouth tightened. If you go to Harlan, you take the Lord with you and something heavier. I'll take my mic, Lena said, trying for a smile. People lie less when they know the whole world might catch them doing it. Shirley shook her head, a slow, sad kind. Baby, they lie more clever. They made a list. Names Lena already knew, and ones she didn't, written in block letters on a yellow legal pad. Deacon Luther Miles, Choir Director Ava Patton, Youth Pastor Ren King, Sister May Randall, Sheriff Harlan Cutchins, Deputy Eli Barnes. Out beside each name, tiny arrows and notes loaned the van. Had key, rumored affair, moved to Savannah History's trivia, turning into map points. Before she left, Lena asked for the photograph. May I borrow this? She asked, touching the frame that held Imani in her paper crown. You can, Shirley said. But you bring my baby home in words, if not in body. I will, Lena said, and heard the promise like nails in wood. Outside, the sky had clouded over, a thin veil making the world a little less honest. Lena opened her bag and slid her portable recorder out, feeling the weight. She hadn't planned to record until she returned to Chicago. She took it anyway, because trouble had a way of inviting itself. She pressed the red circle. This is Lena Baptiste, Briar Ferry, South Carolina. Working title, The River Remembers. I'm here because the dead don't let go, and because sometimes the only thing you can salvage from a ruin is the shape of what broke. She clicked off and put the recorder away. Her hands had the smallest tremor. She told herself she wasn't scared. She told herself she was wise. Mr. Spence's radio in repair was a long room that smelled of dust and new plastic, a place where technology came to die or be resurrected by a man with a magnifying visor. Mr. Spence himself was behind the counter, head bent over a turntable, tongue poking out like a boy. How you doing, Mr. Spence? Lena called. He looked up, visor magnifying his eyes like a cartoon. Lord, if it ain't little Epiphany, he said. I saw you on the internet telling a senator about himself. Good entertainment. I try to be useful, Lena said. Imani Voss sent me. Sighed she brought you a damaged cassette? Spence's face rearranged into caution. She did, and I told her I'd see what I could do. Any chance I can see it? He scratched his cheek. Ordinarily, sure. But a gentleman came by yesterday. Said he represented the church archive, needed to secure all materials pending a review. He had a letter with a letterhead and everything, and you gave it to him. I made a copy, if that makes you feel better. It always does, Lena said. May I? He sighed and rummaged under the counter. He handed her a clear case with a cassette inside. The label was handwritten in a neat schoolteacher script. July 18th Revival Testimony. The tape inside was broken, pulled like a vein. Can you get sound off it? Some, Spence said, if you don't mind the gaps. But the deck I used has a pitch issue, so it's gonna sound like ghosts having opinions. I don't mind, Lena said. Ghosts pay my rent. He gave her a look and smiled despite himself. Sit back there. I'll rig something for you and burn a file. But if the church asks, you'll tell them Lena sinned with technology, she said. And God will forgive us because God likes a good story. He grumbled. While he fussed with wires, Lena scanned the corkboard by the door. Flyers clustered like fish. A raffle, a missing cat, a yard sale. One sheet caught her a photocopy of a photocopy, a list of deacons from 1999. names she recognized. One she did not, Reverend Alan Pike, handwritten next to it, interim. She took a photo with her phone, quick and casual. Something in her chest shifted like a drawer you'd nailed shut, popping back open on its own. "You got 2 minutes," Spence said, waving her to the back. He had the tape guts jury-rigged between 2 machines, a loop that whined and then stabilized. The small speakers hissed. Then sound, choir and clapping, and the murmur of fans. A woman's voice testifying about the Lord bringing her through. The pastor's shout. A girl's clear laughter near the mic. A different voicemail, smooth, practiced saying, "Let the youth speak, let the youth speak," and then a little glitch and the hiss louder, and then Imani's voice, sure as a key in a lock. "I ain't got a lot to say," she said, soft at first, then stronger, like a singer finding the note. "Just that sometimes the river pull at you. It say, 'Come see,' but God say, 'Not yet,' so I'm waiting." A shuffle. An adult voice low. Into the mic, baby. "Imani again. Folks think they know my business. They don't. I ain't perfect. But I ain't no ghost neither." Lena gripped the counter till her knuckles went pale. Spence's eyes shot to her, then back to the deck. He adjusted a knob. The sound dipped and rose. A man laughed, too loud, too friendly. Another voice slipped under everything like oil. "We all make mistakes," it said. "That's why we have shepherds." "You a good girl, Imani." The tape clicked. A pop. Then the choir again, swallowing the moment whole. "Back it up," Lena said, voice hoarse. Spence did. They listened again. The same river of sound, the same careful girl, the same oily male voice, warm with authority and entitlement. And Lena realized, with the kind of clarity that burns, that she knew that voice, not the whole of it. The shape. "That's Reverend Pike," Spence said, unasked. He had the look of a man who knew he had just said a cursed name. "He was interim while our pastor was sick. Stayed a summer, maybe a hair passed." "Where'd he go after?" "Folks said Savannah or Atlanta. He was popular." Lena's recorder was in her pocket before she thought. She hit record. "This is Lena. At Spence's. We found a sliver of a voice. A reverend who ain't in town no more. A girl saying she ain't no ghost." The front door bell jangled. A breeze that wasn't a breeze passed through Lena as a shape blocked the afternoon light. Mr. Spence's friendliness slid off his face like rain off tin. "You got my message," the man said. He had an old cop haircut. He had a smile that didn't reach anything. He had age in his shoulders and authority stamped on his posture. His eyes moved over Lena like a searchlight. "Harlan," Spence said, not hiding his unease. "We closed for lunch." "No, you ain't," Harlan Cutchin said. "I heard you got yourself a little tape problem. Church don't need fragmentary memories circulating." "We're dealing with history, Sheriff," Lena said. The word sheriff came out sharper than she meant. "History don't like remaining properly buried." Harlan blinked slow, assessing. "Well, if it ain't Epiphany's big city girl, the radio star. Come to teach us about our own sins." He took a step in. Lena caught the crest of aftershave and something metallic beneath, like a tool carried too long. "You recording right now?" "Always," Lena said. She made no move to hide the mic. Concealment was a lie of its own. "You got something to say for the congregation?" He laughed softly, like she was a child performing. "I got a warning you can play to your listeners," he said. "Keep your nose clean. We all want peace. That's what your grandma wanted. God rest her. She wanted truth first," Lena said. "Rest comes after," Mr. Spence muttered. "I don't have your thing, Harlan. The man came yesterday for church archives. That tape ain't here." "That man came on my request," Harlan said. "We going to review materials for chain of custody. You know how it goes. No sense getting folks riled up over half a whisper and a bunch of wailing. Lena stepped closer, everything in her saying don't and everything else saying do. You told Imani's mama her girl ran away, she said. You cleared a case without a body. You didn't drag the river till 4 days later, then told folks the current was too strong. Now you want to snatch the only thing with a pulse? He smiled in that tired way certain men do when a woman points to the problem and refuses to flinch. You got a mouth on you, girl. I got a mic, she said. He took his eyes off her first, which should have felt like a win and felt exactly like getting marked. Spence, if you find anything else, you call me, not the church. That tape ain't yours, Spence said, gathering a stand he didn't have. It belongs to the person who made it. Everything belongs to peace, Harlan said, and the door shut behind him like a gavel. Lena's heart hammered. She exhaled slow. You make me a copy, she told Spence. You put the original in a place in your house your wife don't even know. You label it something boring, like lawnmower instructions. He gave a strangled laugh. Girl, you dangerous. I'm unemployed if I ain't, she said. And you? You remember you know how to say no. He nodded. Take this. He handed her a thumb drive. I'll clean it more if I can. She left out the back, feeling the electric alertness that meant a chase had begun. She walked the long way to St. Matthew's, cutting behind the old school yard. Kids had painted the basketball court in wild colors, a mural that tried to persuade Joy into staying. On the far side, a chain-link fence had a hole wired shut with coat hangers. Someone had forced it once. Someone else had tried to undo the trying. Her phone buzzed. A Chicago number. She answered and tucked it under her hair. You alive? Her producer Quinn said. You texted me a hymn and 2 cryptic photos. I got more than that, Q, she said. I got a tape and a name. Reverend Alan Pike. Interns aren't supposed to leave echo like this. Is this the part where I say, please don't make enemies of churches and retired sheriffs in the same hour? Quinn sighed. I know you, Lena. Your grandmother's funeral is not a reporting trip. It wasn't, she said. Then God did programming. Send me raw when you can, Quinn said, already moving in producer's time. I'll spin up a legal call. Also, please, if you do something, text me a location. Your last pin was a bait shop, which I'm sure is metaphor, but also useless if you're in a ditch. Stop loving me, she said. It's bad for your boundaries. Tell me later if this is a full season, he said, voice softer. Or if we just help a woman bury her child, right? She hung up and walked the last blocks in a world that felt like it had slid an inch to the left. The church fellowship hall buzzed with sugar and grief. Joyce caught sight of her, mouth ready to scold, eyes ready to forgive. Lena kissed her mother's cheek, held it a beat longer than the performance needed. You stepping in it already? Joyce said into her hair. I stepped near it, Lena said. The ground moved. That's what ground does here, Joyce said. It shifts under you like sand. Lena nodded. I'm going by the library later. I want old church newsletters, maybe a directory. If Reverend Pike had a wife, if he had enemies. You still ask questions with knives in them, Joyce said. You cut careful, you hear? Across the room, the deacon who had said Imani's name glanced at Lena, like a man who had tossed a stone into the pond and found himself surprised by the size of the ripple. She waved like a lady, and he turned away like a politician. The choir mothers murmured approval of Lena's dress and disapproval of the town's appetite for gossip. The young ushers avoided her gaze, fearful of getting pulled into a story. Outside, the clouds piled into a sky shaped for thunder. Thunder in Briar Ferry wasn't storm. It was soliloquy, the kind that promised and threatened and then delivered whenever it was good and ready. She stopped by the little park on the way to the library, the one with the pier that bent into the river like a finger pointing. She went to the railing and looked at the slow green water. A dragonfly hovered over its own ghost. On the far bank, reeds stood like a choir in stiff rows. She pulled out her recorder again. "Imani," she said to the small red dot, "I'm going to say your name out loud where everyone can hear. I don't know if that brings you closer or scares the snakes, but I think you deserve to be more than an empty chair at a kitchen table. I think the men who knew how to shut doors shouldn't be allowed to shut you." Footsteps whispered the boards behind her. A voice she didn't know yet said, "You shouldn't call things up you're not ready to entertain." Lena turned. A young man stood there, mid-20s maybe, skin like polished walnut, hair in tight twists. He wore a T-shirt printed with a local landscaping company. He was barefoot, shoes in hand like he'd been waiting. "You scared me," she said, and smiled so he'd feel like he'd won. He didn't smile back. He looked past her at the water like it owed him money. "You Lena," he said, not a question. His eyes flicked to the recorder. "I'm Reuben, Shirley's boy." "You the one found the tapes," Lena said. He shrugged, like he'd been caught in a kindness he didn't want to be praised for. "I worked the revival, you know," he said. "Back then. Carried water to the choir, stacked chairs after. I saw Imani that night. Not the last night, the one before that." She was laughing too loud, like you do when you want somebody to notice and not notice at the same time. "You tell the sheriff that?" "I told what they let me say," he said. "Harlan said I saw nothing. What did you see?" He took his time. The river made talking feel like it had always been happening. "I saw Reverend Pike with his hand on her shoulder like she was a small horse," he said. "I saw her stand, still so hard she almost vibrated. Then I saw her say something I couldn't hear, and his face changed to the face men get when they decide you are a problem and a lesson." Lena swallowed. Sometimes interviews were like open-heart surgery without anesthesia. You trusted the patient to hold still while you took the memory out and showed it to the light. "Why didn't you?" He smiled without humor. "Because I was 15 and my mama made $40 cleaning the courthouse. Because I like breathing." He said it without self-pity, and it landed harder. She nodded. "Can I?" "You can record later," he said. "Right now you can listen." He pointed with his chin to a scummy curve at the river's edge where a rotting log made a small harbor. "They found a wheelchair down there last week," he said. "The metal kind from a hospital. No one said nothing, but a boy posted it online and then deleted it. Same day I found those tapes." Something cold moved in Lena's spine. She stepped closer to the railing. "Who uses a wheelchair?" He shrugged. "People who can't walk, old folk after falls, or someone who wants to move a body and then pretend they found the chair in the river, like the river is a thrift store." The sky darkened, the first big drops of rain dotting the wood like coins. Reuben put his shoes back on, as if ready to go. "I don't trust you," he said plainly. "Not because of you, because of what truth does here, but I trust my mama. She said your voice is loud enough to reach God, so I'm going to help you a little and watch a lot." He handed her a plastic sandwich bag. Inside was a strip of gray duct tape sticky with old glue. 3 letters were written in ink. "Apa." "Found it stuck under a shelf in the choir room," he said. "Might be nothing. Might be someone labeling his kingdom." "PK," Lena said. "Alan P. Pike," he finished. "Or a brand of something. Or a joke. That's how they do. They put a thing right out in the open and dare you to give it a name." The rain came harder. They stood under the small shelter by the pier and watched the water darken and then lighten again with each drop. Reuben shoved his hands into his pockets like that might protect what was valuable. "People say the river don't keep secrets," he said. "I say the river keeps what you give it. It ain't a person. It's a mouth." Lena thought of the voice on the tape. We all make mistakes. That's why we have shepherds. She thought of Harlan's smile and Spence's hands and Shirley's careful way of touching the glass of her daughter's face. "Tonight," Lena said, "I'm going to the church." The archive closet. Reuben raised one eyebrow in a way that told her he had learned to show skepticism without inviting a fight. "You go and walk in the front door with your city girl confidence and ask the Lord for a key." "I'm going to choir rehearsal," she said. "You know Sister Ava doesn't turn away encouragement. You go and sing?" "I can sing enough to get inside," she said. "After that, we'll see what song is asked." Thunder rolled. He nodded to himself, like a man agreeing with a coin toss. "If you get caught, I don't know you," he said. "But if you find their list of who checked out tapes in '99, you text me a picture." She took his number. He took hers with reluctance, as if accepting a curse. Then he went, and she stayed long enough to let the rain baptize her in a way she could keep. By sunset, the heat had broken. St. Matthew's doors were open, the choir's scales leaking out like warm light. Lena dressed in respectability long skirt, pastel blouse, hair wrapped in a scarf the color of faded marigolds, and carried a folder like a student. Sister Ava Patton, who had directed the choir since the flood of '92 and had a metronome where most people kept mercy, stood with arms crossed, counting heads. "You a singer?" Ava said, eyes scraping Lena clean. "A visitor," Lena said, slipping in past a row of altos. "I used to sing when I lived here. Thought I might sit in. Pay my respects to the Lord with a song." "Lord don't want no weak sauce," Ava said. "You on key?" "I'm exact as taxes," Lena said, and Ava couldn't help a smile. The practice had rhythms Lena's bones remembered. Warm-ups, sheets shuffled in battered folders, false starts, Ava's sharp fingers slicing through sloppy chords. The tenors tried to be charming, the sopranos tried to be God's favorites, the altos held the middle like a marriage. Lena sang soft, paying attention, watching the shape of the night. The archive closet sat behind the organ loft, a mild steel door with a combination lock that had been added recently. You could tell by the shine. Between numbers, Lena excused herself to the restroom and took a left instead. The hallway was dim, the carpet muffling truth. She stopped at the closet and let her fingers whisper the dial. 19 to 78. She tried First Church founding. Click, nothing. 7/18, the date of the revival. Still nothing. She closed her eyes and let her mind fall backward into a room like this in 1999, where someone felt confident enough to keep their secrets like treasure. Apt, she thought. Alan Pike. Men like Pike liked easy numbers, their own birthdays, scriptures they quoted to hide behind. Ava hit the first chord of a slow hymn, and the sound trembled down the hallway. Lena tried another. 3 to 16, John's famous verse. The lock gave the smallest sigh. She turned the handle. The closet smelled like paper and heat. Metal shelves held labeled boxes, some neat as a nurse's cart, some sagging with the weight of memory. Tape reels, cassettes, binders. An entire town's self-regard in cardboard. She closed the door behind her and slid her small flashlight out, the beam a thin mercy. There was a box labeled Revival Summer '99, Media. Inside, 2 empty cases. A brittle program with Imani's name circled in pencil. A roll of duct tape. A stained Polaroid of a stage with a white man blurry at the edge. Reverend Pike, probably, blurred by motion or unwillingness to be seen. She found a checkout log on a clipboard, names scrawled over dates. July 19th, 1999, checked out to Ren King, youth pastor. Returned July 26th, but a second line was scratched over that in different ink. Returned July 20th, initials beside it, EC, Ebb, L.I. Barnes, Lena thought. Deputy. She took out her phone and snapped pictures fast. A door creaked somewhere beyond the closet. A voice laughed. She worked the shelves like a thief who steals only identifications. Another box labeled Board Minutes 1999 held a page with Reverend Pike's signature, a note about Pastoral Council Private Matters, a single sheet labeled Counseling Notes Confidential, that made her breath stop halfway. It wasn't a note. It was an envelope, sealed. She slid it out. The seal had been broken once and glued shut again. She put it back exactly as she found it and copied the label, hands steady in a way that was not calm at all. The lock turned, not in her hand, outside the door. She clicked off the light and held her breath. A line of light appeared at the bottom. A shadow moved over it like a slow wave. "Somebody in there?" A voice asked. Male. Familiar in the way hometown voices always were. "We got equipment goes missing around here." She searched blindly for a place to hide that did not exist. The closet was a coffin with shelves. Her mind raced a dozen ways to pretend her way out, none of them good. The knob turned, ticked against the lock that she had not respun. The door pushed and held. "Hello?" The voice called again, closer to amusement than suspicion. Lord don't like thieves in his filing cabinet. Lena opened her mouth, ready to lie like a prayer. Then the choir swelled into the chorus of blessed assurance, Sister Ava slowing it down like molasses, and the building vibrated with sound. The voice outside paused, as if unwilling to interrupt God with human business. The shadow moved away. Footsteps retreated. The lock did not turn. Lena exhaled so slow she thought it might be the last breath she ever got to choose. She eased the door open an inch, then a mile. The hallway was empty, but for the hum of the organ in the walls. She slid out, spun the dial to scramble it, and decided she would leave a candle at Ava's altar for the rest of her days. At the end of rehearsal, Sister Ava touched her elbow. "You got a voice," she said. "You ain't used it in too long." "I'm trying," Lena said. She felt like someone had shifted her entire body 3 inches to the left and put her back where she stood. "You Epiphany's child," Ava said, which was both blessing and burden. "We bury and we sing. We don't pick fights." "Sometimes singing is a fight," Lena said. Ava looked at her like maybe not. Be careful how you say it. "Good night, Lena," she said, and that was also a warning. Outside, the air had gone strange with that post-storm clarity where every smell announces itself. The streetlight flickered. Lena walked to her rental car and let her hands shake on the steering wheel for a proper minute. Then she pulled into the road, tires licking wet pavement, and headed home to Joyce's house, to a couch made from memory and a blanket that smelled like ivory soap. Her phone buzzed again. "Quinn, you alive? Send me 30 seconds. She sent a clip at art where Imani said, "I ain't no ghost," and the part where a man said, "We all make mistakes. That's why we have shepherds." Quinn sent back 3 words, "Season. Be careful." Lena lay on the couch and held the thumb drive like a talisman. The house ticked around her. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a dog barked at a darkness that refused to introduce itself. She closed her eyes and saw a wheelchair in a river, and a preacher's hand on her shoulder, and a sheriff at a shop door, smiling like the end of something. She slept. Sometime deep in the night, her phone lit the room with a stranger's name. She answered before conscience could file an objection. "This Lena?" The female voice asked, whispered and rushed. "This the radio girl?" "It is," Lena said, sitting up, heart thudding like a knock. "You don't know me," the woman said, "but I used to be good at keeping secrets. I got one that won out. Not now, 'cause he still lives 3 houses from me. Meet me tomorrow at the old bus depot. Bring no one. Don't come in a car, he knows. And don't wear red. He notices red." The line clicked dead. Outside, a train horn split the night, long and low, a warning and a promise and a test.